Spirituality is, in effect, the personal journey of one through life. There is no one path, there are no one set of rules. To follow spirituality is to follow a meandering path and to be willing to follow it wherever it may lead.
The monk who sold his Ferrari, the wondrous and mystical fable written by best-selling author Robin Sharma, is one of Marko Saravanya's favorite books. It tells the tale of Julian Mantle, a high-powered lawyer who tracks off to India in pursuit of a more meaningful existence and returns after having found much timeless wisdom. One could say that Marko has traveled a similar path, although perhaps somewhat in reverse. Once a renounced monk living in Orange Farm, today he incorporates the spiritual wisdom gained during his prior life into the core philosophy of Regenesis.
The question is, where do you draw a line? What is ethical, what is not ethical? Do you inviting a client for lunch and spending 200-300 rands, is it ethical or not ethical?
When they start saying, no, I gave you, let's say, for instance, a business of 300,000, what is it in for me because I want to bring more business? Then you can be able to see that, no, this client is looking for a bribe, so what can I do now?
When I started Regenesis, it was an ideal opportunity to apply spiritual principles in the material world. People think in order to be successful in life, you need to win the lotto, or have rich parents, or be able to get bank from a loan, or just be lucky. But I think to be successful in life, you need those inner values.
For the longest time, I believe personally, business schools have been churning out people, graduates, that are highly competent from a technical and IQ point of view, but are not really well equipped to handle the challenges and the demands of the new economy. And I like to refer to it as a connection economy, which is built on relationships, it's built on interaction, it's built on the ability to motivate, inspire, lead people.
Is that a reason why conflict can be positive?
Regenesis, an innovative business school, is fast making a measurable impact on leadership development in South Africa. Aspiring leaders here can expect to find subjects like business ethics and emotional and spiritual intelligence sitting comfortably side by side with accounting, finance, and marketing modules.
You feel angry towards them.
If I were to explain emotional intelligence and its importance in the workplace, is the fact that it enables leaders to have a very inherent sense of self-awareness, and once they understand who they are, what drives them, they're better able to extend that to their team members and become more of an empathetic and an integrity-filled leader.
Marko holds that the true recipe for long-term success in the business world is to make honesty one's greatest competitive advantage. While it's imperative to be technically competent, his philosophy is that these basic skills need to be supplemented with something more.
For me, it's also about transparency and honesty, because in doing so you maintain the integrity of the project, but you also manage to maintain client relationships. And you can
Regenesis is leading the way locally in the worldwide trend towards a more caring and ethical work environment. It's hardly surprising that a man like Marko should be at the helm of such a project. It seems as though every step in his life journey has led him here. Marko Saravanja had a happy and carefree childhood growing up in Croatia. The sudden tragic death of his best friend at the age of 8 changed him almost overnight into a serious, introspective young boy.
I was about 8 years old and my friend died with a cancer. It was shocking news for me. It was like very difficult to understand. There was so much pain, and I asked myself, why did he die? So those questions of life and death and meaning and purpose and God somehow became very important for me. And so questioning why, when, what God knows. So I suppose it was the beginning of my spiritual quest.
A quest for the answers to these questions prompted an intense spiritual search, which culminated in Marko becoming a monk at the age of 21. It also deepened his sensitivity to the inherent value in all life forms, and Marko chose to become a vegetarian as a result. Although outwardly composed, Marko was much agonized by his decision to become a monk at the time. He had to renounce all ties of attachments to family and friends, and his only remaining belongings now were an orange robe and a pair of sandals.
On a personal level, it was an extreme process of personal development. We used to fast 4 days a month. I used to sleep only 3-4 hours a day and spend maybe 6-7 hours of meditation and yoga, exercises, and so it was very, very disciplined life, very ascetic life, you know, a life of celibacy, no alcohol, life of renunciation, a life totally dedicated to poor people and to personal development.
Marko felt deeply that his own happiness depended on making others happy, and so he traveled the world engaging in service projects for the upliftment of the poorest and the most destitute sections of society.
We cannot be happy if people around us are suffering. We believe that we all are connected, and if people around us are happy and we don't care, it means we are selfish. And true spirituality does not teach selfishness. True spirituality is about helping other people also, not only ourselves.
Marko's travels finally brought him to Orange Farm. He was a foreign man with a strange accent, yet he endeared himself to the local residents as he worked tirelessly to improve their living conditions, even coming to regard them as his own family.
Hello. How are you? Nice to see you. Hello. Hello. How are you?
Marko attributes this primarily to his training as a monk.
I had to look at the world, very differently. So, for example, love for my family, my mother, father, or sisters, should not be bigger than love for any other human being. We all are children of God. We should not discriminate. Every home is supposed to be my home. Every human being is supposed to be my brother and sister, and mother and father.
Temba Ndlovu is one of the residents from Orange Farm. During the 1980s, he was a political activist, raging with a deep-seated resentment of the ruling Nationalist Party.
I was not really in touch with myself, with my spiritual being. I got to know Marko, and I was taught by Marko how to meditate, which led to me being in contact with my spirituality. And I ended up being aware of my gift of being a Sangoma. I would credit it to my contact with Marko as a friend, as a mentor, and a coach at the time, from anger to someone who works and helps others spiritually and otherwise.
Although Marko played a crucial role in helping Temba connect to his life's purpose, his own calling as a monk was about to be sharply challenged. Little did he know that he would soon be gripped by a profound doubt that would leave him confused and conflicted, and that would take his life into a different direction altogether. After 7 years as a monk, Marko Saravanja made the painful decision to abandon his monastic vows. Longing to experience life in all its fullness, he left the sheltered life of the monastery and opted to get a university degree instead.
I realized in order to grow spiritually, I need new experiences. You cannot achieve enlightenment by reading a book. Personal development happens through experience, through change, by making mistakes, by falling down and getting up, and through internal change, through cognitive conflict.
Although he remained in touch with his spiritual values, he began to explore a more adventurous and materialistic lifestyle. He was exposed to aspects of life that were previously forbidden to him, and Marko admits that for a brief while, he went overboard. Some 2,500 years ago, a wise man said that instead of swinging to opposite extremes, what we need to do is to tread the middle path in order to gain a sense of spiritual poise and balance. He came to be known and venerated throughout the world as the Buddha, and his message resonates with Marko in a profound way.
I think one of the biggest problems in life is immaturity, which is this tendency to swing from one extreme to another. And the Buddha dealt with this, which is why, in fact, his teaching is called the middle way, which he said is the way between hedonism and asceticism.
Today, Marko has gained a steady spiritual maturity and is a happily settled family man. He no longer feels that he needs to be in a monastery to progress spiritually, but holds that we can all practice enlightenment in the midst of worldly life.
Balance leads to peace and happiness and freedom, which ultimately is all what we want, you know. So we cannot be happy if we are not balanced, you know.
He feels that his earlier experimental days were valuable in that they taught him the importance of living a life tempered by moderation. He is now able to successfully combine a family life with his spiritual pursuits and an active career.
So what you can gain with compromising one time and earning a little short-term gain, in long term you will lose.
His spiritual practices, while not as routine and disciplined as his days as a monk, still form the focal part of his life. He sets apart some quiet time daily to meditate.
Meditation really helps me to get centered, you know, to get in touch with myself, you know, regain perspective on life. It's really about finding my own happiness and peace and harmony, which obviously has effect on other people.
Marko believes that our minds have tremendous potential to reprogram our life scripts and to manifest our realities, and so he uses this sacred time to repeat a number of affirmations daily.
Affirmation is almost like a little mantra. It's a sentence that you repeat, and which does almost mental reprogramming, which affects your behaviors, attitudes, and actions. Because these affirmations, they go deep into our subconscious mind, so it's really playing on subconscious mind, which affects change outside. It's a very subtle thing, but if it repeated over a long period of time, it becomes reality. Animals have emotions, animals have a spirit, just different level if we compare them to humans.
Marko's family shares his love for animals. One of their favorite activities is getting into the kitchen together to prepare a fresh vegetarian meal. His wife Penny says that with just a little imagination, they're able to whip up a delicious variety of nutritious dishes. And she credits the vibrant and glowing good health of their two young children to a meat-free diet. For Marko, the ethical dimensions of a vegetarian diet are paramount, and he feels that his daughters have a heightened awareness of relating to all living creatures in a more conscious manner as a result.
Meat creates acidity in the body, and on the other hand, your fruit and vegetables makes the body alkaline, and alkalinity itself creates a physiological and emotional experience of peace and joy.
There's no need to kill animals because there are so many things we can eat and we can survive. Also learning that we can have a vegetarian food which is tasty. It doesn't have to be meat, you know.
Proponents of ethical vegetarianism include Socrates, Leonardo da Vinci, Albert Einstein, and in more recent times, Bryan Adams, Bob Marley, and Sir Paul McCartney.
I'm an assistant chef.
A pretty creative and talented bunch by any standards. So does this suggest that people who shun a flesh-based diet are just that little bit smarter? And if so, is there any scientific evidence to support this?
I was intrigued by the fact that when an animal is killed and we then eat that animal, the stress hormones that the animal experiences at the point of death are not neutralized in cooking. And that would seem logical, that when we are more stressed through what we ingest, it cuts down on our own experience of creativity.
Aside from the exhilarating and heart-thumping rush of adrenaline, extreme sports can provide a true adventure that makes us feel vital and alive. More importantly for Marko, they push us past our comfort zone, and by offering opportunities to transcend our fears, they give us a sense of our own courage and invincibility.
It's all about conquering fear. Ultimately, what we want to do is we want to be happy. Now, between happiness and where we are now, it's fear, you know. So in order to be happy really and to experience freedom, we need to break those fears. You know, the question is, how do we break those fears? You know, there's only one way: is we need to walk through the fear. We need to confront fears. You know.
From free falling out of aeroplanes to scuba diving deep in the ocean, as well as a notable ascent up Mount Kilimanjaro, it has to be said that Marko Saravanja is a self-professed adrenaline junkie.
So every time you do one of those things which is scary, you basically walk into unknown, you push your own boundaries, and you awaken your own potential. So by pushing our own boundaries, actually we grow and we experience our own power. All extreme changes have helped me to awaken my potential, to realize my own power, to conquer my own fears and to push my own boundaries.
Marko does confess, though, that sometimes it takes just a gentle and simple game of tennis with a work colleague to do the trick. Although Marko is of Eastern European descent, he not only considers himself first and foremost a South African, but a passionate and patriotic one at that.
I came to Africa because I wanted to save poor people. But South Africa is an amazing country. If you travel to other countries, then you can only appreciate South Africa. You know. South Africa has an amazing climate, you know, has one of the best climates in the world. I think geography, if you look at just the beauty and size, and if you look at people, if you look at diversity.
The world has become a small place, and just about anywhere is merely a flight away. At a time when literally scores of people are emigrating due to the pervasive culture of crime locally, many foreigners are embracing our land and are making a positive difference to life here. So what is it that really defines us as South Africans? Marko does not look or sound South African, yet he has served the residents of Orange Farm and is now committed to nurturing future leaders and sees himself as a valuable contributor to the success of our country. He feels that in light of the recent xenophobic attacks, perhaps the time has come for all of us to look past national identities and to relate instead to our larger identity as members of one interconnected human family.
In the African tradition, the individual is seen as a fragment of the great light or spirit that is called God. And as a result, all individuals are interconnected between themselves and interconnected with their source, which is the great light or the great spirit. And therefore, every individual has the responsibility to contribute to the welfare of the whole.
In my life, experience was very important, and I wanted to go to different experiences to learn. So experience of relationships, or experience of love, or spiritual experience. So those experiences are important. Experience of business world, experience of academia, experience of family. So it's very important to have experiences, because those experiences through experience we learn. Yeah.
Reflecting back on his life, Marko feels that the most treasured lessons that he has learnt are best encapsulated in the book Siddhartha. The book speaks of a quest for God and meaning and purpose, and ultimately concludes that it's only by experiencing and living life fully and consciously that we truly evolve.